It was the most powerful city on earth, built beside a mighty river and protected by massive, impenetrable walls. The city of Nineveh believed it could never fall. But in 612 BC, it wasn't just conquered, it was erased from history. What happened? How could a city so dominant, so feared, vanish so completely? Let's start with where Nineveh was, because its location was the key to both its rise and its spectacular fall. Imagine ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Nineveh was strategically positioned on the eastern bank of the Great Tigris River, right across from where the modern city of Mosul in northern Iraq stands today. This prime real estate wasn't a coincidence. Being on the Tigris made Nineveh a major trade and military hub. It was the gateway connecting Asia, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Caravans loaded with exotic goods and armies ready for conquest all passed through its gates. This constant flow of trade and tribute made Nineveh one of the wealthiest cities in the ancient world. It wasn't just powerful, it was perfectly positioned to rule a vast empire. And rule it did. Nineveh became the glorious capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, the most feared military machine of its time. From this single city, Assyrian kings launched their armies across the ancient world, from Egypt to Persia. They ruled through a calculated campaign of terror and intimidation, and any kingdom that dared to rebel was crushed without mercy. The city itself was a fortress. Its walls stretched for miles, so thick and tall they were considered a wonder of the world. Its gates were so massive that chariots could race side by side through them. For the Assyrians, Nineveh was more than a capital. It was a symbol of their divine right to rule. They truly believed that its geography and its sheer strength made it utterly untouchable. But as they would soon find out, power built on fear has a very short lifespan. The Assyrians weren't just conquerors. They were masters of psychological warfare. Their reputation preceded them. Reliefs carved into their palace walls weren't just art. They were propaganda, showing in graphic detail what happened to those who resisted. Cities that dared to stand against the Assyrian army were burned to the ground. Their people were either enslaved and deported or brutally executed, their leaders flayed alive. This wasn't just random cruelty. It was a state policy designed to terrify others into submission. And for a time, it worked. The fear of Assyria kept its empire in line. But this relentless brutality created a deep, simmering hatred among the peoples they subjugated. From the Israelites to the Egyptians, countless cultures suffered under the Assyrian yoke. Every city they conquered, every king they humiliated, created a new enemy vowing revenge. By ruling through fear, Nineveh was unknowingly sowing the seeds of its own destruction. An empire built on hate cannot stand forever. By the late 7th century BC, the winds of change were blowing across the ancient world. The Assyrian Empire, overstretched and exhausted by constant warfare, began to show cracks. The oppressed peoples, who had once been too terrified to act, saw their chance. Former enemies put aside their differences and united with a single, burning goal to destroy Nineveh. A powerful coalition formed. From the south came the Babylonians, a people who had long suffered under Assyrian rule and were now resurgent under a new dynasty. From the east marched the Medes, a formidable force from the mountains of modern-day Iran. They were joined by other groups, like the Scythians and the Cimmerians, all eager for a share of the spoils and a taste of revenge. For the first time in its history, Nineveh faced a combined enemy force that matched its own strength. Its location, once a strategic advantage, now made it the ultimate target, a focal point for the world's hatred. The noose was tightening. Nineveh had always relied on the Tigris River. It was the city's lifeline for trade, a source of water, and a natural defensive barrier. The Assyrians saw the river as a protector, a gift from the gods. But in the fateful year of 612 BC, their greatest ally became their greatest betrayer. As the combined armies of the Babylonians and Medes laid siege to the city, something extraordinary happened. Unseasonably heavy rains fell, causing the Tigris to swell into a raging torrent. The river, which normally flowed calmly by the city walls, became a destructive flood. Ancient sources, later confirmed by archaeological evidence, describe how the floodwaters surged against the city's mud brick foundations. The walls, which had withstood every human assault, began to crumble and dissolve. Huge sections of Nineveh's legendary defenses simply collapsed, creating massive, undefended breaches. The very river that had made the city rich and secure had now opened the gates for its enemies. The divine protector had turned into an agent of destruction. With the walls breached, the invading armies poured into the city. What followed was not a simple conquest. It was an apocalypse. The rage and hatred that had been building for generations were unleashed upon Nineveh. The soldiers showed no mercy. The magnificent palaces of kings like Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal were looted and set ablaze. The great library of Ashurbanipal, which held the accumulated knowledge of Mesopotamia on thousands of clay tablets, was consumed by flames. Ironically, the fire that destroyed the library also baked the clay tablets, preserving them for archaeologists to find thousands of years later. The city's inhabitants were slaughtered in the streets. Those who survived the initial massacre were rounded up and sold into slavery. The destruction was so methodical, so absolute, that Nineveh was effectively wiped off the map. It was burned, buried, and abandoned. For over 2,000 years, the once greatest city on earth disappeared so completely from human memory that many people, reading of it in ancient texts, believed it was just a myth, a legendary city that never truly existed. So, why did Nineveh fall? It wasn't for a lack of power, wealth, or military might. It had all of those things in abundance. Nineveh fell because it lacked wisdom. Its story is a timeless lesson that is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. It teaches us that no geographical location, no matter how strategic, can keep you safe forever. No walls, no matter how high or thick, are truly unbreakable. And most importantly, no empire built on cruelty and fear can last. Power without justice, without empathy, is a foundation of sand, destined to collapse under its own weight. Nineveh learned this lesson the hard way. From the banks of the Tigris River, Nineveh once ruled the known world. Today, only scattered ruins remain, a silent testament to a forgotten empire. If you found this story of the past insightful, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into ancient history. Share it with others, so the powerful lessons of our ancestors are never forgotten. Thanks for watching.